Soul Scripts presents Conversations with Your Higher Self. Hi, I'm Alleson Gregary, and today we have Juhl Macintyre. Juhl is a spiritual alchemist. She assists clients in a variety of practices such as QHHT, beyond quantum healing, and multidimensional energy work. In addition to her ability to see light symbols and transformative key codes. Hi, Juhl. How are you? It's so good to see you.
Good. Great to see you, Allison. Thank you for inviting me.
Juhl is part of my soul family that I connected with a few years ago at a conference, and we have been in touch ever since. And I am so grateful to have her in my life. So let's talk a little bit about you. And when did you decide to go down this path of awakening? What spurred that for you, or were you born this way and then it was just kind of like programmed out of you for a while?
So for me, I feel like it's been this huge spiral where I dip into a lot of spiritual stuff and come back out again and play in the more physical and just keep going around deeper and deeper. Originally, when I was about 5 years old, I did have an abduction happen, which I never wanted to look into. So I was aware of that and really suppressed that until a later time. But really, when I was a teenager, I hit rock bottom. I was living with an ex who was very controlling, and I couldn't leave. It was like from a movie almost. And my family got me out of the house to learn Reiki. So I was about 17 years old, and I got out of his house to learn Reiki. And from there, everything changed. So my sister wouldn't even let me go back into his house afterwards. So yeah, you know, when they say, when you meet somebody, when you do something like this alchemizing energy, your whole life, things that aren't in alignment just shift. And that's what happened from there. So from there, I just started, became a Reiki master, which I don't do anymore. But, just started that huge journey and pilgrimage to finding that divinity within myself. After becoming a Reiki master, I ended up at a retreat and a spiritual retreat with all different gurus from different religions, different backgrounds. And I was specifically meditating with a Buddhist monk. And I remember him like reading my mind, coming into my dreams. And I had asked him a question about being a Reiki master. And he said, "How do you know if you're a Reiki master? Did you ask God? How do you know if you're a master?" And then I just went on this search to find God. So I was doing zikrs with the Sufis, Native American, like there was great shamanism going on there, all this different searching, reading, like just eating up all the things, until finally I found this meditation group where for about a decade, I just meditated. And I would say at that point, things were a lot different because it was before 2012. So at that point, there still was this paradigm of seeking that master figure, that guru, to get yourself out of this. Earth was in this frequency fence and not able to connect universally, galactically. So yeah, I was just meditating there, and I would go deep into these levels of samadhi. Now I would say it's different because a lot of times people can get stuck at that level of just seeking that like bliss feeling, right? And not going higher and connecting parts of themselves. But that would be the initial awakening. Then in my 30s, I started recalling my ET experience and never wanted to look into it. And then I came across a group of friends at a conference and happened to find a wonderful hypnotist and they suggested that I see her, and I didn't want to because I was so afraid. It invoked terror in me, and it was the most amazing experience ever, going through those memories, experiencing them for myself, and basically releasing all this fear and clearing all this I would say holographic inserts, amnesiac barriers, things that were blocking me from really connecting with my true self. So
now, was that the abduction you were referring to when you were 5?
Yeah, that's what we went through that night.
Now, do you mind talking about that? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
When I was 5 years old, I blocked most of it out, But honestly, when I went to the hypnotist, I thought, maybe because of Howard the Duck. He was very scary. If I start talking about a duck, it's that. But no, this was, I had this image of like a gray ET on a poster in my head, and it would just spark this fear. And during the session, I could realize that fear kind of linked throughout my whole life. When people would try to put on scary movies or something like that, it was that same energy there, something, not wanting me to look at it. So I wouldn't look at any of this stuff. And all I had remembered from it was that image of that ET in the window. And then I was having panic attacks. So I remember latching onto my mom's leg, telling her I was going to die, hysterical, her calling, and then calling on the phone, which was attached to a cord on the wall, and telling everybody that I would be okay, that she had called all the churches and everybody's praying for me. And then she took me to a psychiatrist. So there, I remember him questioning what had happened to me. And I just knew I couldn't tell him. Like, I pictured myself, even at that age, locked up. And so I just drew a one-eyed, one-horned flying purple people eater, and we let it go. So that night, that night at that session, it all came through, this connection with these ET guides that came in, and basically what they were doing, which can be very terrifying to a 5-year-old, right? Because you don't know what's going on, but they were removing things that were sort of implanted in me. And so through that experience, it was almost like I wanted to stay with them. So it was almost like it had been hidden so that I wasn't always desiring just to leave. And big changes had happened in my life due to that, because there was a series of really traumatic events, and my mother was able to leave with us, leave my father. So huge things came out of that altogether. But yeah, after that session, and then I had another session with her, and I was able to connect more with my guides, with these galactic beings, and understand more what was going on different levels. So
go ahead. I'm sorry. There's a delay.
Oh, sorry. Basically, for the 3 hours during the hypnosis session, I screamed like a baby, and it was this big release. But I went through it all. I just was the poor hypnotist. I just was screaming and crying the whole time. First, because I was petrified, and then because I was, I didn't want to leave. And then we went through my birth, and I didn't want to be born. All the starseed things.
Wow. So it sounds like what you interpreted as a 5-year-old as being a scary ET experience was actually they were benefiting you in a way, removing stuff from your field and from your body. Wow. And why didn't you want to be born? What was the trauma behind that?
So she brought me back to the first time I had met these beings, and I remember seeing my mother giving birth in a hospital room, and one of the beings with her hand over my mother's belly. And I was just watching from outside, like hovering above, still screaming, crying, because I didn't want to leave. There was this feeling of, before being born, of this collective love feeling. It was this bright pink sphere. And it just felt so different, so dense, so not nice. Like, I just remember being like, this isn't even nice. This isn't what I signed up for. Let me out. So yeah, it was like getting on a roller coaster ride and not wanting to stay the whole time. Like, wanting to get off before it started, realizing, what did I pay this ticket for?
Oh, geez. So have you learned, what collective are these ETs from? Where are you from? Have you delved into that at all, or?
So now there's a group that works around me, that works with me, and from other people and from my connections, call them like the pure ones. They're like a very childlike energy, and like a group of beings, and they basically are very helpful in guiding me in different directions, where to go, what to do, helping with things. those specific beings that were there, I've been going into it a little deeper. There's like multiple layers to it, so it's challenging to pick out because there's certain things that are connected, like in this life to that life, so it's tricky. But the beings that I connected with the next session with her were these other beings that were really pure and light and playful. And where would I say I'm from? Well, I don't usually go into that too much. I've been told a bunch of different places, but I'm not.
Well, we're all from so many different places. I was just curious, but that's interesting. That's very interesting. I can see that childlike quality in you. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So is having that hypnotic experience with, do you mind if we say her name?
No.
Barbara Lamb. She is amazing. Is that what kind of guided you towards getting into QHHT and beyond quantum healing hypnosis?
I think so. When I was younger, about 17, I was hypnotized. My mother got me hypnotized by like a traditional hypnotist for self-confidence. And I never wanted to go back into that again because I didn't want my mind being controlled by something outside of myself. And then when I experienced that with Barbara Lamb, because I thought that she would, I thought I wouldn't remember anything, because when I was 17 and did it, I didn't remember anything. I was out. So I was shocked that I went through the whole experience. And then what I realized was that it was so healing and transformative for me because I experienced it all. Whereas I have done other sessions with lots of other people, right? And they kind of tell you what happened, but it's different when you experience it for yourself. So I was inspired to help other people do that too, and help other people to connect within and sort of clear out and start to just observe that trauma that's happened and help it to clear and connect with their different aspects of their divinity.
Now, QHHT, that's the Dolores Cannon kind of modality, right? And the beyond quantum healing is kind of an offshoot of that, a transformation of that. Which, do you find one more beneficial than the other, or is there one that you lean towards or find more interesting things come about when you do those sessions?
So QHHT has to be done in person. So that's a little challenging now. That's one of the specific things. So it's been very helpful with the beyond quantum healing. What I love about that is it's very intuitive. So you can add whatever you want. It includes all different healing modalities. You just intuitively do what's guided and just follow the higher self's guidance. So the higher self will bring you through maybe a life, maybe an area of the body, and just see where that goes. Whereas QHHT is very kind of formal, right? Like it was specifically designed to get you in that somnambulistic state, that super, trance state, that theta state, and then go through about 3 lifetimes, 3 important days, definitely go through your like how you passed, how you left that life. Whereas beyond quantum healing can change significantly from person to person. Sometimes it's just a healing session where they're in a healing temple and their higher self is telling them, answering their questions and doing full body scans and healing them. So, wow. Yeah, usually it's beyond quantum healing or just a mixture of things that, naturally I'm guided to offer.
What's one of the coolest things or multiple things that have come through for you in sessions that you were just like, wow, that's so amazing?
So sessions with other people, they've been surprising me lately because sometimes, and I just haven't been expecting it, but their higher selves or their guides will turn and ask me questions.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so that shocks me sometimes. What happened recently was this whole long story, but I can tell you the beginning part of it, which was I was guided a few days ago in the house, in the house that I'm living with. I've just been I've been in the spiritual nomad phase. So I've been luckily staying in this house, just happened to be available for me to use. So I've been here and I was guided to take a bath, and I was like, okay, I'll go get Epsom salt, all the things. And I realized that the bath was not comfortable. Like I got in it with all my clothes and I'm like, why is this happening? This bath is not comfortable. I'm not taking a bath. So I didn't take it. And then during a session the other day, the client's guides mentioned that I need to take a bath. So it was out of the blue because I had not talked about this to this person. Yeah, very specific. And then last, I want to say Sunday, I woke up. Sometimes I get migraines, especially with big downloads and things coming in. And I had a migraine. And I was kind of thinking about that session and thinking, was that real? Did that really happen? Did that person tell me to take a bath? And then the client actually emailed me, hey, I just re-listened to the session. Did you take a bath? So I was like, okay, I'm taking a bath. And so I got it all together. I slept most of the day and then I got it all together and filled the tub. And then I realized I didn't actually take a bath because the message was there was something wrong with the water. Like the water was a different color, like it was tinted like this greenish, yellowish color. And I was like, wow, I never would have noticed that if I didn't fill the bathtub. Wow. I'm getting chills as I speak about it. But this went deeper and deeper and deeper. But that was the initial, and that was shocking, that came through. And I hadn't even really asked or mentioned anything about that.
Wow. Fascinating. Now, have you also seen in sessions, do mostly people regress, or do they sometimes go into future selves? Because Alleson Co touches on that quite a bit, and that's always fascinating to me when that happens. Has that happened with any of your clients?
It could be anywhere. It could be Candace would call it like a leapfrog session. So it could start in the, past or this present life. And then the next important scene could be a future life, could be source, could be anywhere. I just had an interesting one where a client had all these like very challenging, random things happening. So finally I was like, okay, let's connect with somebody and talk to your guide and find out what's going on. And what turned out was they were showing random scenes from different lives just so that her conscious mind would settle. So she couldn't predict what was going to happen next. It was all these really bizarre things. So it could go anywhere depending on what the client needs at that time. It's not like I'm specifically guiding them to a past life or anything. I would say usually though, healing in general happens in levels and layers, right? So usually we start healing ourselves in this present life. If there's a lot of emotional trauma, stuff like that happened, sometimes, things will come up for us to see in this life. And then after we start healing that, and I would say that sort of gets to the point where you're calling back your soul fragments. And that happens in sessions too, where soul fragments come back. And we start to do ancestral. So I would say that's more like the past life. And then once the soul is completely healed and whole, connecting with the more galactic pieces. And I can't say that would go in order, but I've seen through my own healing and through some people, generally it's like the lowest hanging fruit, right, goes first. So if there's something really affecting your life now, on like a personality level or on a soul level, that will come through. But it could be a mix of all different things. And usually sometimes you just have to see something for a little bit to understand, like, oh yeah, that's there. That's why I had this thought pattern. And then it and it just poof is able to release, and you could just move on to the next thing. So could be anywhere.
That's so true. I had a QHHT session and I went back to being an albatross. And I had lost my mate and my eggs. And it sounds so corny, but it was so profound because it really got me through major abandonment issues that I had. And it's like, wow, how long did I carry that around? It's crazy.
Yep. And that connection, that one little thing, just being aware of it. It's
Totally.
huge.
Now, your journey, I didn't even know this about you, that you were on such a spiritual path for so long. And that's fascinating to me. When and at what point and why did you decide to go into working with the autistic kids? Because I find those children so fascinating.
So as a special education teacher teaching preschoolers with autism and developmental disabilities for about 15 years, and maybe longer than that if you start when I first became an like a paraeducator, a one-on-one aide. And I think it was just a family member. And I think that's what like sparked the initial shift into Reiki, getting me out of that. It's like, I feel like we have these contracts with these people to help shift our life, and they just do it naturally. You don't even realize until your whole life has changed. So yeah, sister-in-law had gotten me a job there when I was, I want to say maybe 19, 20. And I just fell in love with the kids. So then I decided to go to school for it. So yeah, that's where it came from. And then I realized during that hypnosis session, because I want to say it's very challenging. I know for myself, I would come in all excited, like I'm going to make this big change. And then 15 minutes into the day, I'd be exhausted. Like it just was a very challenging job. So I know that was something I was, thinking about before and during my hypnosis session. And then I realized during it that those children emitted this pure frequency of love that I was seeking my entire life. So I think that's a big reason that I was there, just that being in that loving, not separate, like not programmed, not, just that loving energy coming straight through them. So that was huge.
Which circles back to the ETs that you came from. How perfect. What do you suppose, what are these children bringing in? I mean, have you delved into that at all? Because there are so many more autistic kids and various children on the spectrum. I have a child on the spectrum. What we like to think maybe it's a toxic thing that's affecting these children's development, but I also think there's a higher spiritual aspect to why they're here. Have you given any thought to that or investigated that at all?
I have a little bit. I feel like, of course, this planet, we know so much of it has been, I want to say, inverted, used against us, distorting our DNA and our natural ability to ascend. And of course, so many parents have come to me with videos of, this is my child talking before getting, vaccinated, and this is my child not anymore. So I would say that there's chemical, a lot of toxins, a lot of things set up on this planet to inhibit our progress as a way to stop, us from a way to attempt to stop us from reaching our full ascension, full DNA, our full transformation. So I have seen that. So I have noticed things within some of the children that are sort of blocking them. So maybe kids with feeding issues that have sort of energetic structures going on that are inhibiting their food intake. But I would say a lot of the time there's this high vibrational energy coming through, and maybe they are so high vibrational that it's difficult for them to ground it. So a lot of it is grounding it, and a lot of it is that our society right now is so different than what would be comfortable to live in that high vibration, right? We're expecting them to sit in chairs and do school and memorize things and talk like we talk, whereas if grounding that, if connecting with what they were here to do in that essence, might help to focus their energy a little more and get them more connected. But yeah, I do think that they're holding a very high vibrational, loving energy. Like I said, I love to be in that space and connecting with them, although I was very tired because it's like a constant moving energy. So yeah, there's just so many layers to it, just like, you know, quantum healing, multidimensional aspects, you know. So it take looking into each child and, you know, each child's connections.
It is fascinating to think about. Now, one of the other things that you have developed or that has come through into your field over the past few years is your ability to see symbols, which is fascinating. You did that for me once, and it was really cool to see that I have this symbol following me around. Has it changed at all? Am I still the same symbol?
So at first, when I started seeing symbols, I was just reading them everywhere, right? In trees, in the ground, and the people around. And since then, it's just my method of reading energy. I have sort of stopped without permission. I will not be reading other people's energies unless it, you know, unless I'm guided to for some specific reason randomly. So I kind of have taken a step back from just reading random people, because I found that opened up to I guess connecting with them, and it opened up channels that could possibly be, you know, distorted for me. So but what I've also noticed just recently, and this did come through in a session with somebody's higher self or guide speaking, was that I do see symbols, right? Overall symbols for people. But one of the things that I'm focusing on more lately is looking, because I could see an overall energy signature resonance, but then look into each area of the body, or each, you know, smaller areas. And it could be like an overall reading, but there could be like, you know, if this was just lifted into something more symmetrical and aligned with their divine purpose, it could shift the whole thing. So I don't know if that made sense.
Yeah, it has. So has my symbol changed at all?
I feel I just see a lot of pink around you right now. I don't know if it's the glasses.
You know, pink has been in my field the past few days, though. For real. It's been showing up. Like, I went to take a nap yesterday. I was so overwhelmed by something that came through on my walk. And I went to lay down, and the room was just covered in pink. This was very interesting. What's going on with the pink?
Beautiful.
Oh. So let's talk a little bit more about what you can offer clients and what kind of things you have on the menu.
So my goal right now is, you know, offering, serving, helping people. And I feel like that's such a huge step. So just holding that space for people to connect within, like you're helping people to connect with their higher selves, to connect within to their divine essence, right? Their highest aspect that they can. And I would say that everybody has this ability to connect within. I would just say we filter it in different ways, depending on our trauma, depending on what level of integration we're at, right? So if we're feeling from an emotional level that's in our sacral or like lower level instinctual stuff, we're going to be filtering that God divine essence in a different way than if our soul matrix is fully connected and we're, you know, all those parts of us are integrated and we're able to feel from a higher emotional center. So a big intent and mission with my service work right now is helping people to connect with that divinity within themselves. And then once we're able to do that, it's challenging because we have to be able to discern, you know, what part of this is true, what part of this is not. We have to be able to ask the right questions. We have to be very intentional about what we allow into our field. If we're able to ask the right questions, we can tell if things are manipulated or not. Sometimes things feel so amazing and they, you know, they might be guiding us one way, but if we don't ask the right question, like, hey, is this being manipulated? Is this, then we won't be able to see the full truth. So I help people to connect with that. So whether that's in a hypnosis session, right, where you're able to just like set that conscious mind aside and allow yourself to go into this process to heal, see what comes up, heal those different areas of yourself, see what guidance comes through. And that happens in all aspects of my offerings. They're basically designed to help you connect to your divinity within. So I could say, if you had a question for one of my sessions, we could work on it energetic wise, and I could read the energy signatures of the different options, and I could work with you to see what you were feeling and how you were feeling, and we could connect how that resonates and how you can make these steps to move along. Because I feel like if you just give somebody an answer to a question, it's not helping them answer the rest of their questions down the line. And what if everybody was just following that divine inspiration? And what if everybody knew that? Because I would say at the soul level, right, we got these like telepathy, all the like clairs, right? But those can be easily manipulated. There's another level once we get above the soul level, right? Because something like another being could be, clairaudient in your ear, just saying things. How do you know that thought isn't, being manipulated? So there's other levels. And if we are focused enough to connect every day with the divine within ourselves, with our higher selves, with our highest God aspect, and to be of service to that, and not of our egoic desires and what we think we should want, just letting go of this whole false matrix, we're able to connect to higher and higher levels, and then get to a point where our monad and our avatar Christ self is embodied. And instead of telepathy, instead of all the clairs, we get to a point of gnosis where we just know things at a cellular level. We experience things, we go through it all. So I offer one session where I help do an energy reading and consult, and we work through how to find your guidance and what would be best for you, or if there are any challenges in your specific energetic field, which I would say that most people do. Like if you take the time to look through, there are things there. So, and daily, I do it for myself. I go through my whole energetic field. I go through all the different levels and deeper. And it's a process where just seeing the different lives, right? The different things that have happened. I see that the same energy pattern in my personal life versus my past lives. And then all of a sudden I'm seeing it like galactically, and it's brought into the planet. So it's like this huge thing that keeps unfolding. So that's the first one, the energy reading. The second one was more of a healing session. So I'll actually work with the symbols and like architecture in your body or in your energetic field. And then, same sort of thing, help you to connect with that divine essence within, help you clear any blockages, darkness, things that come up at that time. And then also offer the hypnosis session, which is the longer 2 to 3 hour session, which we connect with your higher self, your guides. If you have specific questions, you can bring them in and we'll go through them all. So,
which are amazing, by the way. I've done one with you and I'm looking forward to doing another one.
Yay.
Now, you brought up something interesting that I wanted to touch upon, is the whole discernment thing. And especially now in the spiritual community, it feels like there's even a lot of distortion going on in there. Like there are maybe, with no judgment, because it's all divine, it's all perfect, but there is factions that perhaps are creating distortion within the spiritual community. Have you noticed anything like that? And what do you think is going on there?
I would say, there's a war going on, right? A spiritual war. And I would say that those dark forces do not want us to be in unity. So there's a lot of chaos, a lot of ambiguity, a lot of things brought in to distort what's going on, to make people separate, to agitate people, and basically it brings up that stuff within you, any triggers. But what I also would say about the spiritual community is most of, like, I've kind of went through everything, and everything, many different levels, many different modalities, and everything kind of had its place for me. So I feel like right now it's about discerning what resonates with you and connecting with that, and moving at whatever level connects at that time. Because something like, Reiki changed my whole life back, over 20 years ago. And so things have been changing so quickly. And I want to also add that a lot of times in sessions too, soul fragments or parts of bodies come back, but they come back with things to be cleared off of them. So people might be thinking, oh, this is a negative entity attacking me, but it's actually like a part of your soul or a part of your body or part of your monad returning home. And it just needs to be cleared. We have to be aware enough to clear that and allow ourselves to integrate that aspect of ourselves. So I feel like a lot of times these different people or spiritual groups like trigger us or ping us to bring that stuff up so that we can look at it for ourselves and clear it and learn to move ahead. So I would say everything has a purpose, and I wouldn't like condemn any specific group. I, go by, of course, harmlessness. If they're intentionally trying to harm people, I wouldn't, it's not acceptable at this time.
Right.
But a lot of the whole world right now is focused on keeping everything in polarity, right? Keeping that vibration low enough that, that we're kind of stuck in this drama. So I try to look above, I try to look at it all with neutrality, right? If we could just sit there, and I feel like I've talked to you a lot about this. I see many times in meditation or real life, like I'll see, oh, this is such a beautiful, positive place. Look at this glowing. And then all of a sudden it will go into this darkness, and I'll be like, what is this? I went on this trip recently where I was like, I feel like I'm in Beetlejuice. Like, what just happened? And then I just sit there. I'm like, oh, I need to get neutral. And I get to neutral, and everything just like clears out, like just calms down. It's this peace. It's what I'm finding is when we have that urge, like we have to do something, we're craving something, we're desiring something. It's this, it's not our true selves. Because when we're in that neutrality, that peace, and we're witnessing, nobody would act, in it wanting to harm anybody. You would just feel okay with yourself, just accept yourself and be able to, move through it. And that is the place where we need to be to discern, right? If this group is right for me, not having an attachment to what it looks like, or, just being able to witness it and see what happens. So I hope that answers your question.
No, that's a beautiful explanation. So clear. And I think will make sense to a lot of the people that are new to this whole process as well. And something else I wanted to just get your thoughts on, because we do have new folks to this whole process that are coming in. Explain the soul fragments, because I know when I was first going through my awakening process, that was really confusing to me. Why is it important to bring those fragments back? Where are these fragments, and why do we have to go retrieve them and bring them back in?
So whenever we have trauma in our lives, like big trauma, parts of our energetic field, parts of our soul, parts of our essence break off and can sometimes be lodged in that place, or even intentionally stuck there. Say like a consciousness trap that's designed to sort of to feed off of that part of yourself. So the soul aspects, the soul fragments, it's different for every person, right? I would say sometimes it's just witnessing something that's happening, so you can tell if something doesn't feel right in your emotional body. I would say your soul isn't fully integrated and whole and functioning like in its highest capacity as this like a brilliant emotional higher sensory perception energy if you're in a state of turmoil a lot, if you're in those lower vibrations, if you're very emotional, if you're not able to hold divine neutrality, that's a way you can tell, right? If you're in this sort of up and down. And of course, you know, us empaths, we feel the sadness of the collective, we feel the anger, but it's different to feel it and know like that's not mine and be able to observe it. But I would say a large part of this planet, right, has been getting us traumatized, specifically taking children and traumatizing them so they can't, you know, have this activation, have this connection with their soul. So there's many ways to connect with those pieces of yourselves. One of them just being meditation and calling it back and connecting and getting aware of what's going on and picking up on those little thought processes. It can even just be presence in your daily life of what's going on. And choosing not to participate in different things that might be drawing your energy in a certain way. So many of us not only came here to collect our soul fragments, right? I would say on a global level, right? There have been beings stuck in our planet. Like there have been, you know, we're here helping our brothers and sisters clearing these spaces where these huge traumas have taken place, these huge sacrifices. Maybe some of them came here to plant something into the ground so that it can be brought up now and activate more people. But sometimes what happens is they, I have this aspect of myself playing like defender role and sort of trapping, like getting caught in one of those dramas and getting stuck there themselves. So sometimes it just takes meditating, listening to your higher wisdom, seeing where you go and just observing. Not calling anything bad or good, you know, just observing it in neutrality and allowing it to heal. Breath work's great for this, especially intentionally calling back those parts of self. Guided meditations, hypnosis is wonderful because you can get a really clear picture of what's going on and be able to experience yourself. But if we think about all the trauma we've had as a human race, as humans, you know, in wars, in galactic wars, not only, you know, like it's in our DNA. So like our DNA is all jumbled and not symmetrical and aligned and activated and glowing until we go back and connect with all these light aspects of ourselves, those parts of our consciousness. And we're not held in this sort of amnesia, right? We remember who we really are. So I don't know if that made sense, but
yeah. And the past life trauma comes into it too. You know, this life, past life, planetary trauma, galactic trauma. I mean, it can be mind blowing when you stop to think about all the different layers of everything.
And when we get in divine neutrality and are able to compassionately witness, we don't have to be in more trauma anymore. Like we have control of that. Not that we even have control of that. Our highest divine aspect has control of that. We're just observing. And then, you know, and then it's easy to start calling all these things back. It's just remembering where we put our energy, where we put our intent. Are we focused on connecting with our highest aspect of ourselves, serving? Are we putting our energy into other things? Our consciousness too, our energy too can leave if we're focused on all our energy focused on something down the road, right? Not in this now awareness. Like all our energy is going into something down the road.
Anxiety.
Well, all our energy is good. Yeah, like it's going there. Even planning and focusing there. If we just take it where we are now and we feel what we're guided to do without expectations, attachments, judgments, we start to call back these parts of ourselves.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, you just said, let's not look forward, but let's look forward a little bit. What do you see? Do you see or feel anything that's taking place right now between now and the end of the year? Do you feel anything coming through on that? Or do you try not to go into that space?
So I feel like some challenging things now, like we're in a very challenging energy now, right? For the next couple of days or so. I do feel, so for a while, I wasn't really participating with the public. I was focusing for the past 6 months or so, just meditating and connecting within. I would say that now there's a lot of clearing going on. I would say spiritual warfare, a lot a lot of activity happening, right, on different levels and multidimensionally. And it's hard to say how that will play out. I mean, of course, we know we're ascending, this is it, but it's just getting through these times now, being very aware, saying, neutrality, staying in peace, not allowing the highs and lows to really get to us, keeping our love, our unconditional love for everybody. For the rest of the year, I do feel like there's a push right now to connect with our highest, connect our, right now focusing on going within and bringing as much light, bringing as much integrity into our life versus succumbing to the system, right? The system wants us to be like, look at us, we're going to make you do this, so I think right now it's all about us focusing on integrity with our light and possibly meeting higher timelines, of course, raising our vibration. So I haven't been focused too much outwardly, but I would say just holding that space, really listening to your guidance. Am I meant to go here? Am I not meant to go here? Is this in service? Is it not? Is this being manipulated? Just asking those questions, being really aware, because these are very challenging times on many, many levels. And the beings here that have been here for so long are very advanced and very manipulative and very aware on different levels. So us now, many of us just learning about this, wanting to, go and save the world, right? That's one of those sort of challenges we can get into, thinking that we're saving everybody, can sort of expose ourselves to and be very vulnerable, right, to things that would want to feed off of our energy, take our energy, like they're looking for that now. So I would say in the next year, it's just getting neutral and listening to your guidance within and following that. And as we do that, everything will begin to continue to shift, because it's been shifting a lot. It's hard to see through the dust right now, but continue to shift in that way and not do things because you think you have to, because you think you're supposed to, or your society thinks you should. And that's been a big shift for me too. I said I was doing this spiritual nomad thing and left my job in March of 2020 and have been traveling, and it's just been working like magically. The places just showing up more than I could ever imagine, and just building that trust. And I would say that alone is shifting our whole root chakra, right? That trust in God, trust in your divine, like we are more than just focusing on money. We are more than just focusing on the systems of this planet. And as we start shifting that way into that divine knowing and that divine guidance, everything shifts. So I think there's going to be huge changes in everything, especially probably first the medical system, right?
Yeah, right. It's so interesting that you bring up trust, because that's been a big deep dive for me the past week. And I've seen it popping up a lot on social media. So I think a lot of people are going through the same thing right now, leaning into that trust and just being in that space. It's so hard when we've been used to controlling everything we do for so long.
It is very, very different. And other people, I want to say the muggles, like they don't understand it. They're like, what is she doing? Because I'm okay right now, right? I feel like, wow, this is amazing. This is like heavenly. But if I were to think like, okay, 2 months down the road, what am I doing? That's when I could get anxiety, like, oh no, what am I doing? I haven't planned this out. What is my retirement? What is my, all those things. But if we stay in the now, the present moment, and we trust, it's amazing. And then the more trust we build, and the more we listen to that guidance, the more we know, and things just, synchronistically line up.
It is amazing. We are cared for. We are totally cared for. And that's a big part of the trust. Thank you, my dear, for being here. I so appreciate it, soul sister.
Thank you. This was fun.
It was fun. We will have to do it again one day. And if anybody wants information on Juhl, check below. I'll have all her links posted there.
Thank Thank you.
Bye bye, my love.
Bye. Love you.
Love you.